Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Raptor at Cedar Point. This is the B&M invert here, and it is one of the best B&M inverts, and I'll explain why. So you start off by seeing this thing on the causeway. It's not one of the most dominating rides in the skyline, but it looks really cool, especially once you actually get into the park, because this thing runs right alongside the midway. It is just such a stunning coaster to look at. I love the colors. I love how you can just walk right up to this thing, walk under it, get some great shots of it, even though I didn't really do that because I didn't really have time. But anyways, you get in this line, and usually this is one of the busiest rides. Luckily for me, I got here a few hours late, and that meant most of the crowds from the morning had made their way to the back. So this was an absolute walk-on. I just walked right up and got in a seat. Unfortunately, my one ride this visit was row 4. However, I have ridden the back before, which, as I always say, back row is definitely the best for inverts, and this ride is definitely no exception. This ride still has the traditional OTS restraints. No vests here, don't worry, this isn't Valraven or Gatekeeper. You can get airtime if you're in the back row, which is really nice. I thought this ride did have a little bit of a shimmy, but nothing that's really going to hurt if you keep your head back. So yeah, definitely don't worry about that if that's an issue for you. This ride, fortunately, is not a ride where you have to put your stuff in a locker before, or just like in cargo shorts. I just bring my phone to parks, so I just put my phone in my cargo shorts anyway. But if you have a bag, you can put that to the side. So let's start this ride experience. You're going to start out of the station, do this little pre-lift turning you to the left. That doesn't do anything, I'm sorry. And then you head up this lift hill, and you'll get this amazing view of Cedar Point. And then you'll head down this first drop. And this is for sure the best first drop on a B&M invert. This past visit, I didn't really get airtime, but I still got some good whip. But in 2021, when I rode in the very back, I definitely got a good pop of floater. This thing definitely sends you up out of your seat, and it's definitely the best B&M invert first drop. So then you'll hit the valley going into the vertical loop, and this valley throughout the valley coming out of the loop is very intense. You'll definitely feel the positive G's throughout this loop, and it's really seamless how this ride flows from one element to the next. You feel the positives, and then you just get whipped around, but it doesn't feel abrupt, which, if you know me, you know I sort of like the more comes out of nowhere abrupt transitions, but it's still really cool like this. You really feel the sense of speed, and then you hit the 0G roll. This is definitely one of the crunchiest 0G rolls. I definitely don't think it's as good as Montu's, but it's the second best on a B&M invert. You absolutely whip through this thing. You'll get some really good laterals and even a bit of airtime if you're lucky. Like if you're in the back, particularly on the load side, you're definitely going to get a little bit of float. So that's a really cool element. And another thing is, this thing's just visually impressive at this point. You see everyone walking under you. You see all the rides surrounding you. It's just one of the coolest visuals on any coaster, having all this coaster track surrounding you. Both the coaster track you're experiencing and the track around you. After this, you're going to hit a little straightaway before the Cobra roll. And that doesn't do anything, you just get a little bit of sense of speed. But then you hit the Cobra roll, and this is a really good one. Not even close to as good as Alpengeist's, but still a really fun element. You get some really good whip going into it, and then coming out of it, you get the same quality of whip. And throughout this, you get a little bit of positive G's. So after that, you're going to hit this little turn to the right, and then you're going to bank quickly to the left. This snap really doesn't do anything. It doesn't feel like one of the snaps on Maverick or anything, but it's still a little fun transition. And coming up into the mid-course, you actually get some decent G's. And throughout this whole ride, you kind of feel a little bit of leg numbing. The leg numbing definitely isn't anything too crazy. It's not abrupt, like, for example, on Alpengeist. On that Cobra roll, you just go from nothing to having your legs feel like they just got chopped off, and it's just incredible. On this, there's nothing abrupt about the leg numbing, but it's consistent, so I like that. So then you're going to hit the mid-course, And unfortunately for me in 2024, it did slow the train down a good deal. It felt like Steel Vengeances. So then you're going to drop out of this mid-course through a downwards helix. I imagine this could give some better forces if it didn't trim. Unfortunately, I have not gotten a ride on this where it just flew through the trims. But yeah, you kind of just build up speed on this element in my opinion. You build up that sense of speed too, so you get the wind in your face. But overall, this is a pretty dud element. But then you hit the best part of the ride, and that is this corkscrew. These corkscrews on this ride are very crunchy, both of them. This first one in particular, especially in 2021, really hit. This thing's extremely crunchy. You're just going to get absolutely flung to the right. Throughout this, you're not really going to get airtime, but it's definitely some really violent laterals. And then you sort of hit this meandery straightaway, which I'm definitely not a fan of this. You don't even really feel a really good sense of speed because you're going too slow, and everything's just so drawn out. There's a little drop off too, but that definitely does not even come close to giving airtime, so don't even think about that. But then you hit the second corkscrew. This one isn't quite as good as the first one, but I still find it really whippy. And then you hit the grand finale of the ride, and that is this double helix. Some people will call this one of the greatest moments of positive G's out there. I think it's good, but it's definitely not one of the greatest of all time. You definitely sustain the positive G's for a long time. It feels like 10 seconds pretty much. And your legs are numb the whole time, but not quite as numb as on a ride like Alpengeist or something. But yeah, it's definitely a really good element. You're just going forever. And I think the lack of power compared to other elite moments is what makes me think this element's a little overrated, but I still definitely appreciate how sustained it is. So then you're going to gradually start turning to the left. Absolutely no laterals or anything here, but I will say the turn up into the brakes actually gives some decent positives, and then you hit the brakes. So that's your ride on Raptor. Now, there is a clone of this at Wallygator called Monster that definitely looks better than this due to the lack of trims on the mid-course. You just fly right through. The operations on Raptor are definitely very good too. They definitely pump those trains out, and I gotta give a shout out to Kyle from King to Kyle, who was working at here most of the summer. He wasn't working here when I visited just because they let the summer program out because school starts, but the crew that was operating Raptor still did a fantastic job. I think they definitely pumped through those trains a lot quicker than most other B&M inverts, if not all of them. Because, yeah, I can't really think of a crew that's faster than Raptors in terms of B&M inverts. Maybe Banshee, but even they're a little worse. So overall, I think this is a very great but not elite B&M invert. You've got really good positives throughout the ride, but not quite as good as Montu's. You've got good leg numbing, but again, not as good as Montu's. And then you've got a really cool setting. But that being said, I definitely like Alpengeists and Montu's more. I just love how those interact with the trenches, especially Montu because they're actually themed. And even Great Bear, I think, has a better setting than this. But that being said, this is definitely better than a lot of B&M inverts. I definitely like this way more than Talon in the Batman The Rides. And I think this is a step up from Afterburn, Banshee, and Great Bear. However, it's definitely not on the same level as Montu and Alpengeist. So for Raptor's final score, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. There's a lot to like about this ride. It's got a good sense of speed, good pacing, good positives, good leg numbing. I mean, it's just an overall good coaster. It's not the top of the top in terms of B&M inverts. And at the end of the day, a great B&M invert is still a pretty good but not elite coaster, that's for sure, as this ranks at number 50 overall. So let me know what you guys think of Raptor down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.